Welcome to everybody, and thank you for coming out to be introduced, I think, to one of the great projects going on in the United States right now, and certainly in St. Louis. My name is Waller McGuire, and I have the privilege of leading the St. Louis Public Library, and you are in the renovation of our great Central Library, one of our 17 locations throughout the city, but what we think of as the heart of the St. Louis Public Library. And what you see around you is the product, the beginning of the product of 15 years or more of work here at the St. Louis Public Library. This has been a labor of love and a complex and very challenging project for the library and its team members and all of, throughout the work. But we are thrilled with the way things have turned out, and we hope you will be as well as you look through the building. We have spent more than a decade working with our patrons, with community leaders, with city officials, with designers, with architects, with financiers, looking for ways to make this possible. It was always our intention to preserve one of America's great buildings while giving it another century of life as one of America's great 21st century libraries. It was important that it fill both of those roles. This was extraordinarily complex, but it was important to get it right. There were many people across the world looking at this project. We've had people throughout the world come to visit Central Library just to tour it as an architectural monument, let alone as a library over the years. Those people were very interested in what we were going to do within this space. I hope you have a chance to tour the building. We have that set up today so you can see the work that has gone on within, the restoration as well as the creation of extraordinary new spaces like the one you're standing in within the historic walls of Central Library, the work that took. I have to say you're going to witness a work in progress. You will see things continuing to be installed. You'll see work continuing to be done. I'm sure all of you have moved at one time or another. So you envision what we're going through. Perhaps if you could imagine moving with 4 million items being carried out of the building and then 4 million items being carried back in, you get some idea of what this project is like, and remember, we have to be able to find every single one of those 4 million items. So a major challenge here. I do want to mention the depth of talent St. Louis has to bring to a project like this. It has been an education for me and a great pleasure. To see the artisans and the craftsmanship available in St. Louis to work on the marble, to work on the bronze, the finest workmanship of the early 20th century matched by workmanship in the early 21st century right here in St. Louis. The restoration of the ceilings, the painting, the design and the insertion of the incredibly complex and powerful data networks that run throughout the building, all of those led and carried out by men and women right here in St. Louis. And the depth of that talent has been extraordinary. It has been a pleasure not just to work with the architects, but the workers who have been in the building on a daily basis for the last 2.5 years, and I believe came to love Central Library as much as I do. That was a wonderful experience and something I'll never forget, a great privilege. To mention just a few things, of course, we're standing in what was once the Stack Tower of Central Library, 7 stories of bookcases on which were hung our famous glass floors, an engineering tour de force of the early 1900s, a fire and seismic nightmare by the early 20th century, 21st century. All of that carefully emptied out. The room you're standing in was once in 1910 and again in 2010, a block-long 7-story empty space in which all of these wonderful features and new rooms were inserted. Just outside, you see the new pedestrian entrance. We've never had a fully ADA accessible entrance at Central Library. One is walking under that lovely sculptural stainless steel canopy, which was built right here in the city of St. Louis, engraved with tens of thousands of titles from the St. Louis Public Library collection. It was built blocks away and trucked down here at night through city streets so it could be assembled out back. Again, an example of what St. Louis can bring to bear when it comes to world-class architecture. I do want to show you or introduce you to a few members of the team that brought this together. Of course, it was hundreds of people who made this possible. Canon Design is the architect for this project. Their stunning offices are just a couple of blocks away. They literally walked to this job, which was a pleasure as well for both of us. George Nikolaevich, the lead designer for Canon Design on this project, is here and able to speak with you today when we begin that part. And George is in the back of the room. George, if you'd raise your hand and let people know where you are. So George was responsible for this stunning melding of great classical architecture and the insertion of our own time within this space. And I encourage you to talk to him about the skills and the abilities and the thought that went into that process. The library brought a development team together to work with us on the incredibly complex construction, the contracting, the financing. That was a group called CLR Constructors, or CLR Consultants. Chuck Eviker is here with us today and again could answer questions about that complex process. Go ahead, Chuck, and raise your hand so everyone knows who you are. Yeah. For many years, the library has teamed with BSI Constructors, who has been, that company has been the library's construction manager for years on our branches as well as Central Library. Paul Shaughnessy, who heads BSI Constructors, is here. I encourage you to talk to Paul as well. It is Paul's line that I have stolen over and over again because it's true. This project was like building a ship in a bottle, only on an extraordinary scale. 50-foot pieces of steel weighing many, many tons had to be fit through those openings and brought into this building. All of the structure had to be inserted into one of America's great classical buildings, and all of that was done without chipping a piece of the original granite quarried out of Mount Waldo over 100 years ago, or this beautiful tile that's been in place for 100 years as well. That team and the skills that they have to bring to this, again, from right here in St. Louis, has been a pleasure to work with throughout. I'll close by saying that I've had the pleasure in the last couple of weeks of introducing a whole series of St. Louisans to previews of this space, the Friends of the St. Louis Public Library. We had a staff event in which 600 present and former staff members traveled from across the country to see a loved friend come to life again. And it's been an education to see how people react to this building, to a great memory of youth brought to life again. So I know that what I really have to do, and I'm sorry to have taken so long already, is to get out of the way and let Central Library speak to itself, for itself. But I would say that I do believe, and I hope you're here because public libraries are one of America's great institutions and a great American idea. The thought of making information, of making learning, of making knowledge available for those who want to help themselves. That's a paraphrase of Andrew Carnegie's words carved in the exterior of this building. That's a deeply American idea at a time when many nations are fighting to keep information out of the hands of their patrons. America works very hard to make it available. This is a shining example of that American idea, and I have the pleasure of welcoming you to it. What we're going to do is offer a series of tours for you to see some of the spectacular areas of the building, the beautiful new expanded children's library, some of the wonderful new technology, the beautiful restored historic spaces, and how a modern 21st century library can be made to work in those spaces. I'm going to stay here in the atrium through to 11:30, so I'll be happy to try to answer your questions from here. But we're going to put together a series of tours, and if those of you who are going to lead a tour would raise your hand now. Yeah, you can join them up here, and we're going to start that now so you can actually see Central Library begin to speak for herself. So thank you for coming, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll be here to answer questions that I can, as will Chuck and George and the rest of the team. Thank you very much.